Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call our April 1st, 2025 meeting to order. Before we begin, please make sure your phones are turned off. Please silence them to make sure they will not interrupt our flow of business. We always begin our meeting with a moment of silence, so if you would like to join me, we'll take a moment of silence. Thank you, and now if you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Smith, announcements?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Just a few announcements for you. We'd like to tell everybody about our Pottstown Community Workshop happening tomorrow at the Waymer Center from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's an opportunity to share your ideas, engage in creative exercises, and contribute to the collective vision for the community. And this input will help shape the roadmap for the Pottstown Community Preservation Plan. Next up is all our HPD events for the month of April. There are quite a few, so bear with me. There are 2 events on April 4th. High Five Friday at JMA Middle School, and then Breakfast with the Police at Hondo of Huntersville at 10 a.m. On April 7th, there's Coffee with a Cop at Starbucks on Gilead Road at 11 a.m. And then on April 8th, Cub Scout Pack 200 will be touring the PD. On April 9th, there will be a mini Touch-a-Truck event at Chesterbrook Academy Preschool at 3:30 p.m. On April 11th, Pizza with the Police is at Uncle Mattio's Pizza at 5:30 p.m. April 12th is the annual Touch-a-Truck event at Lake Forest Church at 3 p.m. April 13th is the Farrington Neighborhood Watch Community Safety Day at 3 p.m. April 17th is the 2nd annual First Responders Kickball Game at Bonnie-Cone Lower Campus. It'll be 4th graders versus HPD, HFD, CMPD, MCSO, and HPRD at 10:45 a.m., and that does not seem like a fair fight. And then lastly, on April 17th, it'll be the Grace Covenant School First Responder Night at 4 p.m. And that is all I had for you.
Any questions? Today, I have a proclamation for National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Hi. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. And whereas all children deserve to have safe, stable, nurturing, and healthy homes and communities that foster their well-being. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a public responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a state. And whereas parents need support and resources to cope with stress and nurture their children to grow in their full potential, and whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now, therefore, I, Christy Clark, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Huntersville, North Carolina. Thank you for being here. Good to see you. Thank you. Why don't you say that?
We'll also be doing a National Child Abuse Prevention ceremony on April 11th at 9:30 in the morning, open to the public. Everybody come out. Some of our local officials will be there, so we'd love to have everybody come out and visit us that day as well.
The flyer just went out, so just kind of look by and stand by on the HPD social media, but definitely
I'll make sure you all have it.
9:30 at Discovery Center. Okay, so Pinwheel Plantation.
Thank you.
So bring the babies as well.
Thank you for being here. Item 6B is a presentation and update from the Greenway Trail and Bike Commission. Good to see you gentlemen again.
Good evening. How are y'all doing this evening? Good. We're going to kind of tag team this tonight, so bear with us. We hadn't rehearsed it or anything, so we'll just jump in and out as we go, so,
I gotta keep the time.
okay. So is there a clicker?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Whoa. Okay. Get it here in a second. All right, we're going to start out just refreshing the priorities. And as we talked the last time, last year, well, actually year before last, we set 3 of our main priorities. The first one is the downtown connector. Then the second one is a connector out from Beatty's Ford to the Stevens Grove area. And the third one would be to connect where the south on Clark Creek one ends, connected on out to Skybrook. And then the North Mech Park Greenway extension west to North Carolina 21. That's one we've talked about recently, connecting Monteith Park to North Mecklenburg Park. And then as the county's done more work, it's gotten to where we're getting close enough that we want to start looking at making a north-south connection where our greenways can connect to the Charlotte greenways. And then once we do that, you'll be able to go all the way to South Carolina, because theirs connects.
Yeah.
Once you get to Sugar Creek, you can go all the way to South Carolina. So that'd be a good connection to make.
So we've added 4 to 5 here for 2025.
Yeah.
I'm told that the North Mecklenburg Park Greenway is either just breaking ground now or just about to break ground. So that should be underway very soon. Number 5 is one that I've been trying to get moving here for a little while. I'd like to be better connected to our county, better connected to Charlotte, better connected to Cornelius and Davidson. And I think that's an important thing that, like, if we don't start looking at now, it's not going to happen.
Excuse me, can you talk into the mic so we can?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So number 5 is sort of something I've been passionate about for a while. Like, I want to be better tied into our community, into our county. And I just want to get that ball kind of rolling, have us look at that, how to proceed with it. And the rest, I think 30 by 30, we'll have an updated slide about, we have some numbers on that. We'll go into that in a minute. Bike route signage, we have just started. We've submitted it for the fiscal year budget. I've got a plan for some on-road bicycle routes to try to make it a little easier to bicycle around Huntersville, in addition to our greenways. And that should be coming up pretty soon. And obviously, we'd like to present to the board twice a year. Keep you guys updated, keep you guys in the loop, ask for your help on things. And the other big thing that we would like to do is get some maps made for the community so that we can give them out to people. People always ask, like, where are our greenways? How do I get to them? Where do I go from here? Like, I've seen people at the end of the greenways. What's next? You know, having that information in sort of an easy, presentable way for everybody is going to be important. So this is our map of basically what exists and what's coming. The green parts all exist at the moment. The orange are the next things that are being funded, next things being built. And, oh no, I'm sorry, blue is next being built, orange is funded. So you can see the North Mech Park is being built next, and the extension up to Birkdale from our existing greenway is coming next. After that, we're doing all the orange stuff. Hopefully, we've prioritized in the previous year east-west connections. So we're trying to get like as much tied in together as possible. And that'll lead into our priorities. You can see number 1 here is our downtown connection. Right here somewhere, we need to be able to tie in the greenway that's right over here to the greenway that's going in Vermillion. That's our biggest thing that we really want the board to kind of focus on, get the ball rolling on getting some plans on paper for that so that that can happen.
That one, that really ties it all together, because we want people to be able, whether they're up towards Burkdale or out at Winfield or down in Vermillion, whatever part of the town they're in, we want them to be able to come downtown, get on the Greenway and come downtown. If we don't have this downtown connector, then it kind of defeats the purpose. They can get partway there, and then they feel like they're out on the street or on a narrow sidewalk. And so we want the connector, and we know through downtown, it's actually going to be a sidewalk, multi-use path, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to be a true greenway, but it's going to be a connector. But we can have we can have a sidewalk that's done well through town that still feels and has some aesthetic value to it, or we can have a sidewalk down along a busy road and it's not going to feel too great. And I can tell you, the one down there by Vermillion, where they've already put the multi-use path in along Huntersville Concord, that's a nice multi-use path. It's not a real good, I walk it every day. It's not a real good feeling because there's a lot of traffic on that road.
Yeah.
And it travels fast at times, and there's not a lot of distance between the road and the sidewalk there. And I know in the last 2 months there's been, and I know there's some work on that curve, but I know there's been a couple cars run off the road, across the sidewalk, one of them down over the hill. So, you know, we need to look at all that, and I understand there's some money in the budget to look at all that. But as I said last time, you know, let's do it right. Let's make people that come into Huntersville on our Greenway say, oh, wow, they did a really great job. We could do something like that in our town. But, you know, it should connect to the business of downtown, and there's a lot going on here now. And there'll be more reasons for them to come downtown. And a lot of stuff goes on at the Veterans Park, so, you know, we appreciate your support for putting it in the budget. Hope you adopt that part of it. And then we can move forward with figuring out where's the best way to do it.
And we have a couple of rough proposals that I think we haven't drawn on here. This, the purple line that's on there is sort of our fallback plan. We've got something that's hopefully a little bit nicer than that, but we need the town to actually look at it and determine like what's the best path, how to make it actually happen.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing.
Any questions on any of the rest of the priorities? I know the McDowell Creek one, I don't know if it's officially open, but the news section is basically done, and my understanding is they're starting any day on that second phase. Mm-hmm. So all that's moving along pretty well. And we sort of just talked about this. This slide does show
this kind of shows the problem that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
We have to get from that star right here by the town hall up to the one near the top of the screen up there.
either there or, yeah. We've got, the South Prong Creek comes out to the star farthest to the right.
And we can do it along Huntersville Concord, but it is a busy, high-speed, high-traffic road, and it's just not very pleasant. So we kind of want the town to look at alternate paths, maybe up along Church Street or through the neighborhood there somehow.
The green line between the two stars up here, it's my understanding the developer will put that in. So there'll be a multi-use path through the development that's going there on the Anchor Mills site. And also, I think he's going to have it along the frontage of Church Street as well.
This is our map of the 30 by 30. These are the connected communities. You can see we're pretty much on track. We're almost there, or we're actually over there now. So we're doing pretty good on this. But the more the community we get tied together, the better. I personally see a ton of people who have to drive to get to our greenways, and ideally we'd like it tied into their neighborhoods as much as possible.
And this is just kind of the numbers you see there, and so it'll show where we were at in 2020, where we're at today. That That number does include the ones that are under construction and funded. The number of subdivisions have increased greatly from 43 to 118, you can see there. And then the number of housing units, and if you project that out at 2.8 per unit, would greatly exceed the 30,000 that we're targeting, which is great. We want to connect, as Jeff said, as much of the community as we can. And everyone I talk to in my neighborhood, that's what they want. They want to be able to just walk out the door of their house and
Yeah.
go get on the greenway. They
Not
don't want to
jump in
have
the car.
to drive or go to, a parking area to get to it.
The other 230s in our overarching goal are 30 miles by 2030. And you can see we're making some progress, but we've got a long way to go. This is our spring event that we have coming up. Everybody's welcome to come. Wine on the Vine. I believe we have tickets that we're selling. We'll have information coming. But it's going to be Tuesday, May 13th, right out here by 760 where it normally is. It's usually a big hit. We like to get a lot of information from the community there. It's kind of like a polling kind of thing. We'll come up with a map and like, where do you want to see a greenway? Like, what connections do we need? Gives us some feedback from the community, lets the community get information from us. And obviously, local businesses come out and support.
And we've gotten a lot of good feedback in the past. We got really good feedback from the one we had in the fall, the October event. So hopefully we'll get a lot of people out and be able to share some more information. And that's it. We thank you
That's all we
for
got.
all your support and everything you do for us.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, sir. You may have a question? Commissioner Dumas? Yeah.
I'd just encourage everybody to go to the Wine on the Vine. It is a great event. You guys do a great job with that. And you thanked us, but I say thank you. You guys do an amazing job, and it's really exciting to see all the connections. So thank you for all you're doing.
Hopefully we'll get some more, and we've had the county in to kind of give us an update and trying to encourage them to, because we know, that the bulk of our funding comes from them, and they've got some extra money now, so we kind of push them for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a handful of public comments. We are going to start with Jeremy Golden. I see you have time yielded to you from Samantha, who I see, and from Christine, who I also see. So you have 9 minutes. Yes. You don't have to use it. 3 times 3 is 9. There, you set there? Okay. We're starting a new timer system for those who have been here before. You can see it up there on the board, and then it will be in front of us and also in front of the speaker to hopefully simplify and make it easier for everyone to see how much time they have left, et cetera. So you may begin.
All right. Well, first, thank you, to the commission. Just appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I just want to acknowledge that I'm not a resident of Huntersville, but I did grow up here. I went to North Mac High School right up the road, and Huntersville is where, important to me, I realized that I was gay here, which was not fun. I want to be very clear. This community was not as accepting 10 years ago as it is today. It wasn't fun. And there were parts of me at the time that, due to that, it made it harder for me to accept who I was, for me. And when you're in that position of having a tough time accepting who you are, you want to be able to lean on someone, and it's a lot harder to do that when your community has made it clear that you can't lean on them. And so when I finally did decide to accept who I was and come out at least to myself, I started looking and daydreaming about where else I could live, because I knew Huntersville was not the place I could do that. I dreamt of living in California, New York, DC, and that's why when I did get the opportunity to go to college, I didn't stay in North Carolina. I went elsewhere. I went to Syracuse University in upstate New York. And I actually decided there to study politics and religion, because while at that point in time I had learned to accept who I was, it still bugged me that there were people in the community that I grew up around did not accept who I was. And I spent 4 years trying to answer the question of what would make someone disagree or feel the compulsion to hate someone based on their identity. And in 4 years, all I got was a really expensive piece of paper. And could not for the life of me understand how someone could look at any religious text and justify hatred, especially the one that I studied. There are ways to construe it, but you have to want to get there. You have to want that to be your outcome. And so when I moved on from that degree and got into my career and moved, at the time I moved to DC, I did have the pleasure of watching Huntersville from afar and seeing this community really change significantly. Which is why when the election nearly 2 years ago, gotta be honest, I nearly was moved to tears that night because of this commission's election. It represented a very drastic change that even I wasn't sure was gonna ever happen. And that's why I'm speaking here tonight in favor of the non-discrimination ordinance. It's important that those in the community be able to know that they've got someone to lean on. And this ordinance doesn't just create a policy, doesn't just create a system to combat discrimination. It gives people a place to go and a place to look when they have been discriminated against. And that is more powerful than just the words on a paper or, a fine being levied. That shows people that they're welcomed here. That election represented a rejection of politics that used to dominate this area and drove me away. And I think that moving forward, Huntersville has the opportunity to show and solidify the difference that this community wants and showed in their election of this commission, that they wanted that change. And so I urge the commission to support this, support the NDO, because this doesn't just create the policy, it sends the message and creates the commitment to the community that I could have used when I was growing up here. Because as I said, when a child or when a kid is alone, they're going to look anywhere for community, for love, and for comfort. And I think it would be really great if kids growing up in Huntersville did not have to look so far like I did. That's why I left for so long. I'm proud to be back. I'm proud of who I am. I love who I am. And I want everyone else to know that they not only should feel the same way, but that Huntersville is going to commit to that as part of their own community values. And they're going to put their money where their mouth is and pass this NDO. To those who would feel compelled to say that this NDO by nature discriminates against them, I would just ask why you feel that your identity is threatened by your inability to threaten someone else's identity. It is not. There is no religion, there is no God, there is no scripture that tells you that hate is necessary. And I want to, just before I leave, impress upon everyone here that this has not just been endorsed by people in the queer community, not just the LGBTQ caucus of the Democratic Party, but the Young Democrats, the African American caucus of the Democratic Party, the Hispanic caucus of the Democratic Party, the Jewish caucus of the Democratic Party, as well as groups outside of the Democratic Party, including the Black Political Caucus of Charlotte-Mecklenburg. This is not partisan by nature. It doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be. And sadly, we live in a country now where that is where things are headed. Huntersville has an opportunity to show where Huntersville's values are, and I think that this is the right time to take that stance. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Ms. Caldwell, and you have 3 minutes yielded to you from Sean, who's here. Yes, ma'am. You will have 6 minutes, Ms. Caldwell.
Paper's a premium. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners, mayor. I sent this email earlier and I already had a response from Bobby, but I did want to make sure that the people in the room and maybe those listening would hear. Because I live at 14521 New Haven Drive in Huntersville, North Carolina, but I spent a little time in the Pottstown area. And some of the residents on Church Street are having some serious problems with homelessness, and we don't have every home with people living in it. So a lot of things go unnoticed and unchecked when you don't have eyes and ears in every household. So anyway, I'm going to read some of this, but let me put my glasses on. Speeding cars and tractor-trailer rigs use Church Street instead of Verhoff Drive. Parents of students at the Lake Norman Charter School use it too. There are 2 plants in the business park that employ people in 2-hour shifts from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And years ago, one of the town managers contacted the plant and asked the CEOs to inform employees of the speed limit and adhere to it. Many vehicles travel faster on Church Street than they do on 115, and residents would like to have the speed checked by an officer or the automated device. Speed calming devices could be a great help, but we know we're going to really work that for Dalewood first, because neither street has any sidewalks. The leash law for Mecklenburg County, all animals except cats need to be on a leash or contained within a fence or an operable and marketed invisible fence outside of their own yards. And dogs they need to be under physical restraint at all times. Now, there are dogs living in a car, and I know the dogs can't open the car doors, but this is what's happening. I've seen it. And so at my house at 14521 New Haven Drive, 3 dogs attacked my car. And this was last year, but I did get the animal control lady to come out. My car had to be repaired, but the owners don't necessarily let the dogs loose. They do what dogs do. They go under the fence. But when the dog's owner is not there, we are left as prey for those dogs because they are vicious and they will bite. So anyway, we need to try to get people to adhere to the leash law at least as much as possible. And neighbors are afraid to go out because when they run loose, you never know when they're going to attack. And seniors in their homes, you're not comfortable going out when you see them because you don't know whether they are going to come at you or just looking for food. So I'm asking the town, and Bobby has already said that he has given the information to the right people. And so we hope that other people will be on the lookout and know that we would like some more help in the Pottstown and East Tunnersville area because we're living in perilous times, and we don't want dogs running loose because we don't know whether or not they are part of a pack or part of those, what are those dogs that run wild? God, I forget what they call them. But coyotes, yes, because we can see them, because I'm still in a wooded area. But I do thank you for your time. We appreciate what the new board is doing and all the people that are coming out. And so we really need sidewalks, and we really need speed calming devices on Dalewood and Church Street. We don't have as many children on Church Street as we have on Dalewood, but sometimes I frequent church there, and it's really, you're taking your life in your hands. So maybe we can get the calming devices on Dalewood as soon as possible. ASAP, ASAP, ASAP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. We're on to item number 7, agenda changes, adoption of the agenda. Do we have any agenda changes this evening?
Taking notes. Yes, we do have an agenda change. I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda by adding 10E, the appointment to the Environmental Sustainability Committee.
Okay, and do I have a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
Just a second.
Oh, second.
Second.
And then all in favor? Any opposed? And now, do I have a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
Motion to adopt amended agenda.
May I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item number 8, consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I make the motion to adopt the consent agenda.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Item number 9A, conduct a public hearing on traffic calming measures on Delwood Drive.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Roberts. My name is Laura Mastro Francesco. I'm the transportation engineer, and I'm here today to present on the traffic calming measures on Delwood Drive. So first, I'm going to start with showing you the location, the vicinity of the street. We're going to go through the process of traffic calming. We're going to talk about the data that was collected, and then some proposed solutions. So on the top left, you'll see Town Hall, where we are today, right now. Delwood is not that far. You just go east and come straight down South Church Street, and you would intersect on Delwood Drive. So if we zoom in a little bit, Delwood Drive goes from Church Street all the way into the Vermilion neighborhood. The area of study was from Central Avenue to the end of the community, so just before Vermilion. So if we look at just a street view of the neighborhood, it's a mature subdivision. We've got large trees. The characteristics of the road, pavement to pavement, is 18 feet wide, which is rather narrow. 2 cars would be 9-foot lanes. You can see there's ditch section, there's no curb and gutter here, and no sidewalk on either side. So the community reached out to me and had concerns about vehicles speeding on Delwood Street. The representative of the community filled out the online form, and then we moved forward with the policy. So we went out and collected some data. The results of that was that the 85th percentile of drivers were going 35 miles per hour. Posted speed limit there is 25 miles per hour. The policy states that if the 85th percentile is over 31 miles per hour, we continue with the study. So we move on with the study. Now the next part is twofold. The community does part and the town does part. So the community did their awareness campaign and provided documents to us. Staff here, we moved into type 1 solutions, which is I share the data with the police and ask them to increase their enforcement. And then later on, we installed some temporary radar feedback signs so that the driver can see actually how fast they're going. After we go through that, we restudy the area again, put up the radars and collected it. The number did not decrease very much. We're still at 34 miles per hour. That is above our threshold. So that means now we go into type 2 options, which are the physical, actual options for traffic calming. The engineering came up with several different options that we discussed with the representative of the community to explain to the community and give us some feedback. And then we're here at the public hearing and the presentation. So now I just want to go over with you all the proposed solutions, and then I'll tell you which ones the community preferred out of them. So option 1, we're just going to start small with 1 speed hump in the middle of the studied area. So starting at their community, not at the Vermilion community, all the way to Delwood. The next one would be 2 speed humps. Now these ones are spaced out at 500 feet. This is pretty much the maximum that engineering would prefer to see speed humps spaced at. And then the third one was to put in a 3rd speed hump. So if you were coming in from Vermilion going westbound, you would encounter 3 of them before continuing straight west or coming down Central. Now the 4th one still has speed humps, but we're going to introduce a mini circle. Mini circles are placed at intersections. They're similar to roundabouts, but much smaller. So the mini circle and an additional 2 speed humps. And then finally, the 5th one was the mini circle still at the intersection, and then 3 speed humps. So this would be the most involved one. So let's look at what a speed hump looks like. That's the one on the left. It is contained within the right-of-way. It's on the pavement. It could be curb and gutter. It could be a ditch section. And then on the right is the mini circle, which is a little more new to the community. It is actually 16 foot in diameter, and it's about 4 to 5 inches thick, height. So it's just like a roundabout, you're going counterclockwise. The reason there's no landscaping or signs in it is so that a larger truck can actually drive over it, part of it, or swing the back of their trailer over it, because it is a smaller area for someone to make a left, like a fire truck or a landscape truck pulling a trailer behind it. So let's look a little bit some more on that mini circle. Now, I told you the speed humps are within the right-of-way. We would not need to acquire any more right-of-way or easements. I scaled in a mini circle right here at Delwood and Central, and you can see that we would need some type of right-of-way for the road, a little bit of easement. We'd check drainage. We'd have to double-check if these people would like to let us acquire some of their parcel for this roundabout. That could take much longer to settle with them. So this one takes a little longer. We research property lines, we do their drainage, and acquire property. So I told you, then I asked the community what they would prefer. The community rep told me they would prefer option 1, which was 1 speed hump in the middle of the study area, or option 4, which was the mini circle and 2 speed humps. Now, I also asked our fire and police their preference. Chief Titoli pointed out that there is a fire hydrant right by Central, and he thinks that this traffic circle would be problematic with laying down the hose, following the curve, or going over the mini circle. So fire would prefer not to have the mini circle there. And speaking with the police department, they prefer the options that had 2 or 3 speed humps, but did not like the mini circles. They seem to have a larger learning curve with the public, and there's been a lot of calls to the police department. Engineering would prefer 2 or 3 speed humps within that section. So that was my presentation. I can open up for questions, and then we have some people who want to speak.
No, sir. You could ask after. Any questions, board? Commissioner Rivers?
With the speed humps, 2 or 3 speed humps, what are we looking at timeline-wise? So if we went with this option?
So after today, I could come back at the next meeting or next month to hear the board's decision. From then, it depends on which option. Speed humps are quicker to put in. We don't need any right-of-way. If we go to a mini circle, then that could take months just to get the right-of-way before we even install the mini circles. So if we go back to the speed humps, which is what we would recommend, we have the right-of-way. We could put it into our Public Works Department and probably have it in late summer, early fall. So like 2-3 months after the decision.
And the speed humps would be the paved, not the flat plastic?
Right, they're not the, they would look like this. It's asphalt on top of asphalt. It's not the rubber mats. It's not like a curb when you go to like a parking lot. There's a bump there when you park your spot. It's not like that. They're about 18 to 20 feet wide. It doesn't look like that. But it's got a ramp up, over, and back down.
Commissioner Hunt?
I have 2 questions. So the first one, sometimes people are concerned about what this does to their cars. Is there any concern about that, like the impact to people's vehicles?
Well, if you take it at a lower speed, there wouldn't be any
Not a
impact.
problem, right? Yeah, for sure.
They're usually 4 to 5 inches in height at the maximum part.
Okay.
And that's mainly for our fire trucks to get over without damaging a $1 million fire truck.
Sure. Okay, and then the other question is, if there's just one speed hump, do you see people like speed in between the speed hump, right? Like they go over and then they just, go quickly again?
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
it could happen.
thank you.
Commissioner Walsh?
Yeah, just a quick one. I could see where, I'm actually a fan of the mini circles, but there it might be problematic. I don't remember seeing a mini circle where it's just like at a T. It's usually at a four-way. Do we have another place where we've done it at a T?
In the Stony Brook station subdivision, that's at Hambright and 115. There's 2 of them at T intersections. And up at 73, the North Brook neighborhood, they have a T intersection one as well, off of Maple Branch.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Dumas?
Do you have any insight as to why the community's preference was for just the one speed hump?
No, I do not know, but I could ask them, and they will be speaking today too.
Yeah, I wonder if like one speed hump in the middle of the long street will even do much. I live on a street that has, Angel Oak has several speed humps. It's a longer street, it has several speed humps, and I have found it to be very effective. I have always felt very safe. People do speed up between the bumps, but they can't enough to make it terrible. So I would say more is better. My preference would probably be 2 or 3 speed humps for that road.
Commissioner Quarles?
You said that the community rep preferred option 1 and option 4, with option 4 having the mini circle. Was that communicated with the community rep, meaning what police and fire
I
recommend?
don't think I told them what police and fire preferred at that stage of the discussion.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so I actually had the same question of Commissioner Dumas, so I would be interested in also hearing the feedback, what the feedback was from the community of why they preferred one speed bump, because looking at it, I would feel like 2 would make more sense. But, so if you could get that answer for us or some more information, that would be great.
That is roughly where the radar was sitting, to collect the highest speed would most likely be at the middle of the intersection of the study area. And so I assume, which I probably shouldn't do, is that that's where they saw the highest speeds. And they're like, well, that's where we should put something.
No? Okay, so we will proceed with our public comment period for this. Our first speaker is Helen Brown Rivers. Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
So my name is Rachel Zwift. I reside at 13228 Central Avenue. I'm part petitioner on this study. So to first, and thank you guys for your time and attention. Also thank Laura and the rest of the engineering team on their help on this project. To answer your first question, I think there was some miscommunication between me and Laura when she sent it over asking for our final decision. I was looking at my phone, so I couldn't distinguish 1 and 2. Our actual selections were, yes, the mini circle, but then also at least 2 speed humps if we could not get the mini circle. And she's correct. At that time, she had not told us about the fire and the police suggestions. At this time, we've talked a little bit and definitely, the reason we wanted the mini circle was because we don't have stop. It's only a 1 stop there, I believe, and the mini circle would help to slow down the other traffic coming from the tracks on the other part of Church to Delwood, where people tend to speed as well. So the thought would be that that mini circle would actually help to provide some stoppage there, since there isn't a 4-way stop at that sign. Well, it's only 1 stop on Central coming this way, none on Delwood, which is why the people speed that way. It is an honor to stand here in front of you and the rest of the community to hopefully see this project go through exponentially. As you guys know, this community has been asking for speed humps for decades. We started this process last year in May, so this May will be a whole running year it has taken to do just this one street, and we are looking forward to do 5 more streets after this to ask for these calming measures. So my call to action is to ask you guys not to wait the entire month, that you have to vote on this, is to vote on it by the next board meeting so that we can get this project underway and have these speed humps that this community has been asking for decades before the summer is out. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil Hagman, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. This feels unusual to me. 45 years in a classroom, but 8 years away from a microphone. So I'll use my classroom voice. I live on Lower Delwood, which is the part by the cemetery which goes down into Serenity. That's really the speed. That's really a lot faster than the ones that we've been looking at. They hit that hill going down after they sped through the other neighborhood. They hit ours, and they even speed up even further and often ignore the stop sign. We're working on that. 2 things. One, you've talked about earlier about access to downtown. There are a large number of people who walk along Delwood to get to downtown, the businesses, and there are no sidewalks. So if we're talking safety, let's include some sidewalks. Otherwise, if you get hit by a car doing 40 or you get hit by a car doing 25, you're still hit. So we need the sidewalks for safety. Also, Delwood is very narrow, as was mentioned earlier, and there's no restriction to parking on one side or the other. You park on both sides, we got a safety issue. You can't get a fire truck or a police car or any car, an ambulance, through that double park side. There should be parking on just one side. And finally, if you're only going to go with one speed hump, paint 3 Vs, or upside down Vs. The 2 that are not for the hump are like having a sign that says, beware the dog, and you don't own a dog. But it works. So if you paint the street where there's no hump, the people who are coming through, cutting through and don't know it, they'll slow down anyway. So, and that only costs you some paint. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you, sir. Jess Avina, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I also live in Vermillion at 740 Delwood as you come down the hill opposite Mr. Hageman. I think our biggest concern here, from what I've read, is safety of everybody that's on Delwood that uses that source for commuting. We have to have sidewalks in conjunction to these speed humps. I know my wife and I and a lot of us walk that to get to downtown. And at night, it's very dark. You've got to put your flashlights on, and you pray that a car doesn't come behind you. You have to walk one side or the other. Because it's narrow, you almost have to stop and get out. When people park on the side, you have nowhere to go back and forth. That's probably my biggest concern. I've been on that street for 10 years now, and we still don't have sidewalks. We get close, but we don't ever finish the deal. And I think that would be probably the safest bet to go. I also like the 2 speed hump options, but I would, on that one map, would lengthen them out. So you'd have one getting close to Vermillion and then one close to Central, so that you have a leeway between the 2. I think 3 might be overkill, especially for law enforcement if they're going to go through and patrol that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Rivers, would you like to go? Okay, 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and the commissioners and the staff of Huntersville and all the community. It's indeed an honor to stand before you. They say that we are called to action tonight. So I have been here, my name is Helen Brown Rivers. I have been a resident of Huntersville, April 23rd, 78 years. My family has lived on Delwood Drive, which was Cemetery Street at the time, over 100 years. My grandfather was one, on the Brown side, was one of the people that bought land, first black person on that street. So we are ready for action from someone. Everybody's hollering sidewalks. We don't have the space for sidewalks. The street is very narrow. It is very unsafe because I walk my granddaughter to the bus stop every morning that she goes to school. We have to get over in the ditch to let the cars go by. And so I think the speed humps would be a great progress in moving forward in helping to slow the speeders down. We have 25-mile-per-hour signs up, but it's not noticed. The police did come out and observe the speed. I thank them for that, but it is still happening. The solution is that we install more than one speed hump, I feel. But like I say, I do have a fire hydrant right at my yard. So we were trying to map out, I think they said 500 feet apart. But whatever you can do to help Delwood Drive, we would appreciate it, because it's elderly people, like the gentleman say, I see them walking, people with their dogs walking, children in strollers, and it's just really aggravating that we have to move in the ditch to let people go by, but they come by speeding instead of being respectful to the people in the neighborhood. So I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Carlisle, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for letting me speak. I live on Serenity Street, and that's at the bottom of the hill of Delwood. People fly down Delwood, and they don't bother to stop at the stop sign. And I have filed 2 written complaints with the police department, and I've had police come out and sit on the street, and they stopped 15 people one day in less than 20 minutes running the stop sign, but no one wrote out a ticket. So it's still continuing. The speed limit on Serenity is horrendous. I begged the city for a speed limit sign for about 1.5 years on Serenity so that people could see it right in their face to help slow down. But they still ignore the sign. Oh, and the sign was put behind a tree. So unless the limbs are trimmed, you don't see it. But there are like 9 small children who live by my house on Serenity on their bikes every day and their scooters. And I am so afraid. I live in the summertime in fear that history's going to repeat itself for me, because I saw a child, 4 years old, get hit by a car and fly through the air and land face down on a sidewalk. And it is something you never want to see again. And I live with this horror every day in the summertime. I sit on my front porch and I watch it and keep my phone handy to take pictures of whoever runs over a child. So I would love to see something done about the speed limit on Serenity Street. And as far as coming down the hill, I don't know if 2 speed bumps are enough, because they fly down the hill And then when they get to the stop sign, they rev up their engines to see just how fast they can make it to the next stop sign. And this goes on a daily basis. So I would appreciate any help from the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Augustine Hinosu. Hope I got close. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, right? My name is Augustine Hinojosa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up here today. Speed bumps on Delwood. In short, we want them, and we want them installed ASAP. You'll find speed bumps in many neighborhoods, all serving similar or same functions. So what makes the speed bumps on Delwood so different? It's been hard to find the words. As a longtime Pottstown resident that lived on Delwood prior to the connecting development of Vermillion, it is difficult to explain what these speed bumps are supposed to serve. At times, it's tiring, and at other times, it can be painful. To the passerby, these speed bumps may appear to serve the same purpose as any other neighborhood. However, Pottstown is not just a neighborhood. Pottstown is a community that reaches far beyond this side of the tracks. I like to think of Pottstown as a historic beacon that illuminates the undeniable resilience that is felt and found throughout this country. History not only lives in Pottstown, it thrives. So what about the sidewalks? Speed bumps. There's a lot more to these obstacles than pedestrian safety. Too much to explain here. But I got a few minutes left. And I could tell you that as someone who lived in Pottstown for 20 years and didn't really get to know the community itself, I can tell you that this community, like I said, it's a beacon. Words really couldn't put this community into perspective of what it actually is. You really have to immerse yourself into it. Honestly, just leave it at that. You really need to immerse yourself into it. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you, sir. And lastly, Pastor Henderson, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, town commissioners, to our town officials and staff, to our very fine police department and fire department. I am Pastor Ray Henderson, pastor of St. Philip Missionary Baptist Church, located at 524 Delwood Drive. My concern and care this evening comes from the stance and status as the leader of one of the fastest growing ministries in our town. Since my arrival at St. Philip, we have grown from a church meeting on Sundays to an expansive ministry serving our community and abroad throughout the week. Back in November of 2022, there was no paved parking lot on the grounds of the church. And today we have a paved parking lot with many more renovations, additions, and upgrades in the works as we convene even at this very moment. As the church grows, we pray to be a part of the solution, to be an assistance to the traffic flow on Delwood. I strongly believe and speak for the majority of the congregation that I pastor when I state that speed bumps are an immediate solution, and sidewalks will be an addition as well. And they will be beneficial for the street in which our church is on. Anything that has the Spirit of God upon it will grow. But let's not equate movement with growth, for all movement is not growth. I see quite a bit of people in this town moving, but we must be certain that our movement makes progress. When the town considers the traffic flow on Delwood and in Pottstown, or over the tracks, as my Aunt Betty says, let's make progress for all, not just movement for some. God bless you, thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right. Yes, Commissioner Dumas.
I'm not actually sure if you would be able to answer this, but I know we have talked about sidewalks in the past. Do we know where that stands?
I'll let Stephen talk about that.
He's pointing over here. Okay.
I'm
ready to say the word. I'd lay them tomorrow. I'd like to put them throughout the whole neighborhood. It's a little more complicated than, there's right-of-way issues. So you have to work with the property owners out there, and then if one or two doesn't want it on their side of the road, they want it the other side of the road, at some point in time, you may have to condemn those properties. So those are the things that we deal with on a daily basis. A lot of times we run into neighborhoods, we want sidewalk, but we want it on this side, and then half of them want on this side. So those are things we have to work through, but I'd love to put sidewalk throughout that entire neighborhood. And that's something we worked on. We put maps together. Hopefully, the community leaders in the neighborhood can help us achieve that, because I'll commit to funding it. And I know this board will, and previous boards have, but we need your help. We want to make it happen.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bergsman?
Yeah, and well, Commissioner Dumas, I feel like we're on the same wavelength tonight. So to follow up from that first, I am curious, because we currently have the Pottstown Preservation Plan that's in development, and is sidewalk recommendations or approaches going to be part of that outcome from that?
I think it depends on what the community stakeholders that are meeting to develop the plan want. I think that's where that answer lies. So the ones in the room have said they want sidewalks, so I think we'll hear from them on that as they build the plan.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to make sure, since it's been on hold, and I agree that I'd love to see the sidewalks too. So my other two questions, hypothetically, the option that's the mini circle and 2 speed bumps, could that be split into 2 projects that possibly speed bumps could move forward and more, so more time could be spent on whether or not a mini circle can happen? So we're not waiting for speed bumps while that component's looked at.
Definitely whatever the board would approve. I could split.
Are the 2 speed bumps in that plan the same location as the option that is just 2 speed bumps?
I believe so. Oh, that has a speed hump. I'm sorry. There we go.
Okay.
So if that's what the board wants, yes, definitely.
Okay. And then my last one is kind of related, and it was one of the public comments made me think of this. I think I know the answer, but I want to check. Does Delwood have any streetlights?
No, no.
Okay.
Not pedestrian level streetlights. There might be one overhead. It's a Cobra for street lighting, but not like the lower pedestrian ones that you'd see by a sidewalk.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, Commissioner Rivers.
I know that there was conversation about sidewalks, funding was brought up. There was also a community meeting that was held in regards to what the community wanted in regards to the RAISE grant. Bobby, are you able to give us an update on the RAISE grant, or is there someone that can give us an update on the RAISE grant? Thank you.
We did apply in January to a BUILD grant. They changed the name, federal grant to fund sidewalks on Delwood and Central and Holbrooks. Those awards should be announced at the end of June. And we plan on incorporating feedback from the Pottstown preservation plan into those plans.
Commissioner Bergsman?
Remind me, will this go to planning board?
No.
Okay. So if we wanted to have it come back on our next agenda, that is possible?
A comeback,
Like for a decision?
for decisions, yeah.
What's with the pointing?
You can have it. I can come back in 2 weeks or the first of the month of next month.
Would you need anything from us tonight?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
I was just going to say, whether we get the RAISE grant or not, we'll fund it either way if you want to put sidewalks in there. So I wouldn't Hopefully we do get it, but if we don't let that be a deterrent. We'll fund it.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Thank you. All right, thank you so much. We're on to item 10A, consider approving fiscal year 2026 goals. Mr. Roberts.
Hit the button. Guess I can't work the button. So I'm not going to read through all of these. You've probably seen these. I'll probably just hit sort of the highlights. You should have had these in your packet. You saw these at the budget workshop retreat. I think Bobby had maybe mailed these out a couple weeks ago. When you took office, obviously, we set some goals in place. You set goals in place, which were FY25 goals. Obviously, as we're moving into the new fiscal year, which starts July 1, 2025, it's beginning of FY26. So we have proposed goals for that. Typically, when you come in the office, when you came in for FY25 goals, we set those goals. We tweak those and modify those as you're in year two. That's what you see before you. There should have been a red line option that was obviously in your packet, so you can kind of see clearly what was there before, what you modified, some of the things that have changed, what you've accomplished, i.e. like you probably don't see Town Hall on here. Well, one of the things was to finish Town Hall. Well, we're going to finish that before FY26 is done. So, well, let me make sure I read the right one. Hold on. I say that, I'll pick that one. For instance, just on the land use development and planning, I'll give you a good one. Consider adopting of the mobility plan. Well, not going to put that in FY26. Sounds like Heather's going to bring that back at your next board meeting. We'll finish that up in FY25. So that's an example. But the topics that you see before you are what I'll call the highlights. You have goals on the land use development planning, goals on the finance, goals on the public safety, transportation infrastructure, parks, recreation and greenway, housing, sustainability, natural resources and environment, and facilities and asset management. So those are your categories, and obviously your visions up top that sort of plays into, I think, what Ethan has been pushing out to the community. Thrive, obviously, is the last word in that. So our vision is to be safe, vibrant, and diverse community that is inclusive to all, and where families and businesses thrive. And all of these goals, hopefully, like I said, you've seen before, but if there's things you want to add tonight or have further discussion on, we're here to make those changes. If you're not comfortable adopting those tonight and you want to make some changes, we can bring these back at the next board meeting, so kind of up to you. But we're ready, and we can discuss any goal you want and get into however much detail you want to.
Commissioner Quarles?
I would like to add if we could propose for FY26 goals to advocate for veteran service officer, which is a VSO, to service our veterans and their dependents in our new town hall.
Thank you. I think that's a great idea. That's a goal we're all supporting and working towards. So are we wanting to move forward with passing this tonight, or are you going to make a motion including this? Okay. And then Commissioner Bergsman, I know you have something.
Sure, and I support that. And I also had an item I wanted to consider that we add to it in regards to preserving the history of Huntersville and promote and encourage the preservation of our historic assets and history.
Anybody else have any additions tonight or comments? No? Are we ready for a motion? All right, Commissioner Hunt?
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 goals with two additions. One, promote and encourage the preservation of our historic assets and history. And two, advocate for Veterans Service Officer VSO to service our veterans and their dependents in Huntersville Town Hall.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Item 10B, consider approving the Rama Church Road Park Master Plan. Mr. Jaycox.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. It's good to be here tonight. Excuse me. We're excited tonight to present you the Park Master Plan for Rama Church Road, Rama. I know it's kind of divided on how to pronounce it, so hopefully we can change the name. The project location is on Rama Church Road. The southeast corner of Northstone backs up to the property. Ramsey Glen is actually across the street from the site. It is about halfway between Highway 73 intersection of Rama Church Road and Highway 115. You can kind of see on the map, all the way to the left is North Meck Park. Top right-hand corner is Bradford Park, so that gives you that idea. It's kind of like halfway between both of those sites. The site is 25 acres. 5 of the acres are being held aside for Fire Station number 5. Currently, the 25 acres, about half of it is wooded area, and the other half is open fields. And actually, I've always found it interesting, if you look at the maps, which might be hard to see, but even back in 1951, 73 years later, you can tell the tree canopy actually has grown on this site because I guess the amount of farming has reduced over the years. So that wooded area has grown. Topo kind of falls off to the southwest corner as you go down towards the creek to the left. Public engagement, like we do with all of our projects, we had 3 public input meetings. We had a social media feedback. We had about 13,000 views on those posts and reached 6,000 people. We also had stakeholder meetings, so those included HOA representatives from Northstone and Ramsey Glen, which are 2 neighborhoods that are next to the site. We also had also a member of the community who actually lived in a single-family home right across the street, so you're getting kind of feedback not just from neighborhoods, but people who've been there for a long time. So received a lot of great feedback on the history of the property and how it's been used. Also, as you can tell, it's almost split if it's Rama or Rama. So once again, we'll have an opportunity to actually officially name the park. So maybe we'll take that part of the name out. I don't know. We'll see. What we heard, so public meeting number 1, like we do with all of our projects, that first means a clean slate. Here's the site, here's the topography, here's what's around the site, if there's any creeks, any other future projects that are coming up, such as greenways. We also have a board where people vote on what park amenities they would like to see. We did push this project into more of the passive, just knowing it's in between 2 very active parks, that it makes sense to be more passive, especially with some of the homes nearby. So we did kind of push people in that way. Once again, trails, playgrounds, fitness stations, wood activities, small shelters, large shelters, all these passive activities were the top 10. Also, we had just a plain board where you can write anything on a sticky note to kind of give us more feedback. And as you can see, the different comments there about something for the bees, keep ADA in mind, wildlife, public garden, mountain bike trails, and it's big kid playground. We're starting to get a lot of older big kids in our playground, so it actually makes sense because we see a lot of that. Zip lines and other things that are woods, obstacle courses and so forth. We also had a kids table. At kids table, we heard a lot of kids like to have like a kids mountain bike trail that's not as difficult as the one we have at North Meck Park. So that was something that was interesting to hear. And also some other public engagement, avoid light pollution. And some people were concerned about the park backing up to Northstone. We did give a lot of great examples that with the buffer between those houses and the park is very similar to North Meck Park. So from a standpoint, we haven't had issues in the last 30 years of people wandering into people's yard. So I think that helped calm people down about looking for a fence through that whole woods that we don't do at other parks. There were some concerns about the speed and traffic on Rama Church Road. So that was a concern, and people like to be connected from the neighborhoods nearby. And then meeting number 2, so we gathered all that feedback from meeting number 1. We bring 2 concepts back. Each concept has the same park amenities based on the feedback. It's just different layouts of those amenities within the park. Concept A was by far the most preferred. Concept A, the big difference there is that the main shelter, the main restroom, is near the playground and the fitness components in open space. People had concerns of kids interacting with dogs going to the dog park on a path, so we kind of separated those use so the kids' activities are further into the park, and dog park is away from the kids' activities, where kids might be running around on the field or something. There are more trails on Concept A, almost about 2 miles of trails with paved trails as well as mountain bike trails and nature trails. And so then the final meeting, we bring back the feedback on what we heard, what concept was preferred. This is just one last chance for people to give us more feedback. And I think a lot of times we know by meeting number 3, if everybody felt good at meeting number 2, what we presented, not as many people come to meeting number 3 because they feel like, okay, they're listening to us, that the concepts are close to what we wanted. So the last meeting, we only maybe had 20, 25 people. The others, we had between 40 and 50. So once again, one last opportunity. Here's the final plan. Give us any additional feedback. We did also provide some architectural renderings of the shelter just to give people an idea kind of what they're looking for from that standpoint. Then the final master plan, once again, 25 acres, 5 acres for fire station. I mentioned 12 acres is wooded. Asphalt and nature trails, so both different types of trails people wanted to see. Multiple seating areas, obviously restrooms. The one thing we hear a lot is we don't have like a larger shelter in our park system that could hold 90 to 100 people, so we heard that a lot, so we implemented that. Also heard about having some smaller shelters, multiple entry locations to the greenway, not the greenway, to the trail. So if you only want to do half of the paved trail, it gives you an opportunity to come back to the main part of the park, or you can continue all the way out up to where the sidewalk would be up along the road. So it gives you options not to just do one long trail. You can actually cut your walk off short. We do have 3/4 of a mile kids mountain bike trail. Once again, we think that would be really cool, unique that we currently don't have in this area. So the younger kids can kind of learn how to ride a mountain bike trail before they actually go out to North Meck Park. So we got 10,000 square foot playground, multiple fitness stations, 20,000 square feet for a dog run, and also parking and different type of activities that could happen in this park. And these are some examples of what you might see in a similar park. These are just some examples, some wood play areas, different seating areas you can have, maybe an overlook, some more of educational, interactive pieces within the park area, back in the woods, just kind of an educational piece that draws people there to learn. And then the different type of trails, some nature trails, paved trails, mountain bike trails, different woods activities, different size shelters, fitness stations, and stuff like that. And then that is the final plan. Parks and Rec Commission did unanimously approve this at the March meeting. Really, the next steps is if you approve this plan tonight, we'll allow people to give us input on naming it. Now, the process of doing this project, we mentioned at the retreat, I think Anthony can give us some more feedback on that, is to try to tie this project in the same time as the fire station, number 5. It makes sense to build them at the same time. So at this point, we would just look for any questions you have. I always like to use this photo because this is a good example of how you have your basic playground, but you also have your natural play features connected to it. So I always like to say I see this park being Rosedale Nature Park on steroids. A lot bigger, a lot more trails, more space, but people have loved Rosedale since we opened up 3 years ago. I know that was quick. Any questions?
Board, any questions? Commissioner Quarles?
I don't know if you recall when I first met you, we sat in your office, and I shared with you a dream to have a park similar to this. And if you go back to my old website, you'll see that that was something that I pushed for. So this right here is amazing, definitely something that I'm excited about. Then I also saw zip line in there. Could you guys imagine Chief Graham and Chief Patoli having a zip line competition?
That'd be fun to watch. There you go. That's the ribbon cutting. Whoever comes to the ribbon first on the zip line.
I am out on that one, just so you know. Any other questions? All right. We need a motion to approve the Rama Church Road Master Plan.
I make a motion to approve the Rama Church Road Park Master Plan.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Now, item 10C, consider authorizing staff to submit an application for a Parks and Rec Trust Fund grant for the new fire station number 4.
Yeah, so this is a state grant. It's very competitive. The maximum requested could be $500,000, so that's what we're requesting. Part of that process is the board approving, allowing us to submit that application, which it is due May 1st. So we're kind of really close to that deadline, and we're kind of wrapping things up. Part of that point system for that grant is doing public, presenting to civic groups. So this Thursday morning, I got a presentation to the Rotary Club, and then Thursday night, a presentation to American Legion. So that's kind of our last steps of kind of completing our application. Typically, they will notify awardees probably in August, and then typically you can't, if we're lucky enough and awarded, you typically can't start the project until your contract is signed for the grant, which is usually December. That's kind of the next steps in the process.
Any questions on the Partif grant application? No? Okay, may I have a motion for item 10C?
I make the motion that we authorize staff to submit an application for a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant for the new fire station number 4 park project.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 10D, discuss and consider action on the current speed limit on Stumptown Road. Mr. Trott.
Good evening. Here we go. All right, so I want to talk to you tonight, and I'll start big picture and then dive into the details. But currently, the speed limit on North Cross Drive and Stumptown Road is varied. There's several along that section of road. Also, there's different parts that are town maintained and parts that are state maintained. So we kind of want to run through the differences in the sections of the road. So where are we talking about? North Cross Drive kind of starts at the northern end of town near 77 and then winds its way down parallel to 77 and then hangs a turn there and crosses over 77 and gets over to 115. There's also another section of Stumptown Road just outside of Northstone there that connects from Rama, as Michael would say, church to Aberfill. Town has a project to fill in that last gap, but right now there is part of Stumptown on that side of town. As I was mentioning before, a portion of Stumptown Road is maintained by the town and a portion by the state. There's 3 different speed limits in that section of green. I've got a map to kind of break that out for you. It ranges between 35 and 45 miles per hour. There's also a couple of schools currently along there. There's another property that the school system owns, so there could be another school along that section of road. Both of the current 2 schools have a 30-mile-per-hour school zone during certain times of the day. So back to the same view we had before to show where it is. This map shows you what's town maintained and what's state maintained. So the northern portion there, again from the northern town limits down to Hugh Torrance Parkway is state maintained. Kind of section in the middle is town maintained, and then the last section over there to the east, connecting into Rama Church Road, is state maintained. So using the same color theme, but trying to show you the differences. So it starts out in the very northern part as 35 miles per hour down to 73. Working your way south from there, speed limit's 45 through there. You may recall that signs used to say 35 in that section some time ago. We actually asked the state what the speed limit was, and they said it's 45. And we let them know the signs don't indicate that. And they said, well, we'll change that. So that section is 45. It does change around the school near Grand Oak down to 40. And then continues 40 into the town-maintained section over to US 21. And then from there, it changes to 35 for the rest of that. This is just a little more zoomed-in view for those like me that need a more zoomed-in view these days, so you can see it, of what's going on. So the questions for you, just a few of those here. Do you desire to have a consistent speed limit throughout this section of road, both town and state portion? Does police have any input on making a change or keeping it the same? Any kind of history there? The town completed an evaluation on the town-maintained section to see, is that a good speed limit to have? What our evaluation came to the conclusion of was 40 miles per hour seemed reasonable in the town-maintained section. The state actually, I guess, from our prompting and asking some history questions on what theirs was, they took a look at it. And their conclusion was they recommended 35 miles per hour for the whole thing. So just wanted to present to you some history options, and there's more than just what the recommendations are. You can leave it as it is. You can look to change part of it, all of it. We want to get some feedback and see what you would like to do.
Commissioner Rivers, go ahead.
So based on the results from both the town and the NCDOT, I know it's 5 miles per hour difference, but why did the state come back with the conclusion of 35? I know you said there was some history.
Well, they just did an evaluation of the whole thing, and what they concluded was that they recommended 35 throughout the whole area. Yeah, Stumptown and the person that actually, we got information from the state, and the person that we got it from thought the whole thing was state maintained. So, but even though it's not. So.
Stephen, that last little section, the extension part, will that will end up being town maintained as well? Should that ever happen?
Well, we're working on if you're looking at the section, kind of the gap there between the yellow and the blue on the right side of the screen. That is currently a town project and proposed to be state maintained.
Okay. Commissioner Bergson?
115 in Aberfield.
So if the speed limit were to be 35 in that whole section, then the school zone, would that go down to 25?
Maybe. So reason why it's not a yes or no. So one of the school zones is town maintained. One of the school zones is state maintained. The state indicated that if it was 35 in their section, that they would drop the school zone to 25. So 10 miles per hour or less. I'm not aware of a hard and fast rule that it has to be 10 miles per hour or less, that the town could follow suit and lower that in the town section if that's desired, or it could be, a 5 mile per hour difference. So it could go either way.
Okay. I have a few more questions, but I do want to comment on that, because I spent quite a few years walking to Grand Oak from my home and back twice a day, 5 days a week for the entire school year. And I know at that time, and I'm willing to wager it's definitely still the same, almost everyone that I knew, at least in the Macaulay neighborhood, had serious concerns about the speed in that section. So I just, from my perspective, anything that's higher than 35, if we're looking at it across the board, I probably will have a hard time supporting, because I know there have been issues in that area. And I like the idea of having the same speed throughout. It'll be hard to get me higher than 35. But I also wanted to find out, if you lower the speed limit in a section, does that actually help reduce speed alone, or are there other complementary things that we can do to help with speeding?
I would say one thing could be enforcement. That's a different group handles that. Looking across the room for the folks that handle the enforcement. we could try to look at other things, although the roads built, it's meant as a way for folks to travel through there. So I earlier heard about traffic calming. This would not be a road for recommended for traffic calming based on the volumes of things. So I'd say it'd be challenging to try to add some other physical features. There's sidewalk along, I'd say a decent portion, say from 73 all the way down to Ranson Road. There's at least sidewalk on one side of the street. That does help. There's a good portion of sidewalk along part of Stumptown Road with the Stumptown Road project. We're looking to add more, kind of complete, another section of that. So it'd be something we could look into.
I can say the Transportation Committee had a passionate discussion about the speed along this way. And the teacher, me, said that I kind of was trying to pressure the other committee member into making it being 35 just for safety reasons. And then because there will be a future middle school right along Stumptown at some point. And so we will have a third school zone along this route here that made me, feel pause and think it should be 35 throughout.
Yeah, and one last question, but also on that, I mean, I know I've witnessed so many times, and I've walked that sidewalk as well on a regular basis. And one thing that's, that also happens is like St. Mark's is in that area. It's one of the schools. And it's very common for parents to park kind of at the bottom of the hill by that roundabout at the end of the school day and waiting. So there's also lots of kids, and they usually have a teacher accompanying them, come down and stuff. So it's a fairly heavily used pedestrian-wise. And that made me forget my question, so, never mind.
Does anybody have any other thoughts? Commissioner Dumas?
Yeah, I have to agree about the school zones. I've often wondered why it's set so high when I'm driving that area and I see the kids out and everything, and it's like, wow, I don't know, this feels odd to be driving this speed right now. I was curious about whether or not we've had incidents from the police perspective, and is there a reason to go with a consistent number because people are going 45 in the 35 or continue to go 45 in the school zones or anything like that?
We got asked about crashes in that area and safety reasons. From 115 to 21 on Stumptown, we have a few crashes. We've wrote a few tickets down through there. Currently, even though the CMS owns that property down there, there's not a lot of pull-outs once you get through there in front of the church and everything. So there's generally not a lot of crashes through there. When you get to Stumptown and 21, there's a lot rear end slow and stop, people turning through, running a stop sign, things like that. Going to the other side, I measured from St. Mark's at the roundabout all the way back up to Hugh Macaulay Road up there. We've had 9 in 5 years, which is not very many. Generally, they've got a crossing guard over there at the school. We're very conscious about doing that area. We work the area quite a bit. Good sidewalks, good area off of the road. It's not an issue as it stands right now.
Okay, thank you. I think I'd be in favor of a consistent maybe 35 or with a 25 school zone. At first, I was leaning more towards a consistent 40, but I don't know. I really do think that the school zone could use some help there.
Yep. Any other thoughts? Okay, go for it.
And actually, this is kind of in reference to the section that's in the 45, like kind of going up North Cross, the DOT area. And I know that's both a kind of straighter, but also wider section. And I didn't know, do we have any plans, or are we looking at the possibility of adding in, like, I feel like right now, at least on the one side, there's a fairly wide, not median, but kind of.
The lanes are wider.
Lanes are wider.
The town's also added sidewalk on both sides of the road in that northern section up there.
Is that a section that we could look at for like adding in a bike lane?
We could look, I think there's some pinch points around turn lanes at the Brookdale neighborhood entrance that comes out on that, in that area. I think it does kind of pinch down. There's some turn lanes there. We can ask DOT to look into it. Another part that I didn't point out earlier is the NC 73 project is impacting the northern portion of North Cross Drive. They're adding a roundabout there. Probably, if you look where the word North Cross is on the screen, around where the N-O-R, somewhere in there, is going to be a roundabout. Also, the 73 interchange is adding a new bridge over the interstate that'll line up with Rich Hatchett, and then we'll tie in. So that's going to change that character of that northern section of North Cross here in the next, whenever they get to build that. So I'd say that northern section, kind of the northern end of North Cross up towards 73, that character is going to change with two upcoming NCDOT projects.
What's the schedule for those kind of, what do they call it? Those flyover bridges? What do they call those that are going to be those little side bridges that are going to be part of 73, you know, where they,
Yeah, those.
do they have a name? Besides bridge. Don't look at me like that.
No, you'll be able to get off and get over to North Cross without having to go all the way up to 73.
Right, yeah.
I'm drawing a blank at the,
Okay.
right.
We can make one up later.
And those, I guess, schedule-wise, let's see. 2027 is an anticipated construction start for the interchange. And trying to find it on there. I believe 2027 is the part for NC 73 as well. So hopefully starting soon.
Okay. We know how that goes. Okay, so do we have a consensus? Does anyone want to make a motion to make Stumptown Road be consistent 35 with 25 for school zones? I need a motion from someone.
I make a motion to change the speed limits to a consistent speed limit of 35 miles per hour for the road, the Stumptown Road, and 25 miles per hour school zone, in the school zones.
What about North Cross as well?
That's, okay, so North Cross and Stumptown Road.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries. And then we have item 10E, which is our amended item. We're adding another member to the Environmental Sustainability Committee. Commissioner Hunt, is that you?
We had a resignation this morning, and since in our last meeting we were tied, it seemed like there was a general consensus on appointing that particular person, so we just thought we would bring it back and appoint that person today. Right, Bobby?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what she said, and this term would expire in 2026.
So just do the nominations. If you still want to nominate that same person, go through the nominations and then make a motion to appoint that person.
Okay. Commissioner Rivers?
I would like to nominate Timothy Sanborn.
Commissioner Walsh?
Tim Sanborn?
Same.
Same.
Orles?
Same.
Marksman?
Same.
All right, may I have a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Tim Sanborn to the Environmental Sustainability Committee.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Mr. Sanborn. Do we have any closing comments? Commissioner Rivers?
Yes, actually. Over the weekend, my daughter, who is a student at J.M. Alexander, lost her math teacher, Mr. Aaron Simpson. So I wanted to send my condolences to Mr. Simpson, his family, the JMA staff, Principal Hager, and the students.
Commissioner Walsh? Commissioner Dumas? Commissioner Hunt? Commissioner Quarles? Commissioner Bursman? All right, I do not have any comments either. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all.